I'd like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. We're here with Staff Director and Chief Counsel Donald Cravins on the Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. It's good to be on.
Now, you're a Donnie also.
Donnie as well. My parents will always call me Donnie.
Okay. Well, what is it that you are responsible for?
Well, I work for Senator Mary Landrieu, who's the chair of the Senate Small Business Committee, and as such, we oversee the Small Business Administration. Any piece of legislation that's filed by any senator that deals with small business or entrepreneurship or the SBA comes before our committee. I'm the chief of staff of that committee, so I run the Democratic staff of that committee and help oversee the policies and procedures of the committee.
Okay. Now, from the grassroots, one of the things I hear from particularly black business owners is lack of access to capital. What when you first came on board, what were the top three items? Well, I mean, was access to capital?
I'd tell you the top two items, just to be, particularly among African Americans and minority businesses. The first one was definitely access to capital, and that's going to continue to be an issue for entrepreneurs, particularly startup entrepreneurs, for several reasons. One, you're going to always have an issue whether someone is credit worthy, and banks are going to have their criteria. Regulators are going to have their criteria, so that's always going to be an issue. And every day we try to tackle that issue to make sure that there's fairness. People want fairness when it comes to access issues, and so we really do try to tackle that. And I'll get back to some things that we have done. But the second big issue, particularly from African American and minority businesses, are fairness when it comes to contracts. One way that African American businesses can be successful very quickly is they can sell their goods, sell their services to the federal government, to the state governments, to the county governments. And so what we try to do at the Small Business Committee is to make sure that process, because 23% of all federal contracts are supposed to go to small businesses. And in that 23%, a certain percentage is supposed to go to women-owned business, socially disadvantaged small businesses, veteran-disabled, service-disabled veteran small businesses. We, one, make sure that that's actually happening. And then two, we want to make sure that we streamline that process so that more small businesses have that opportunity. So when I talk to African American small business owners, those are the two, particularly in this region, in the Baltimore, the DC area, Maryland, Virginia area, they want fairness when it comes to capital, access to capital, and they want fairness when it comes to the procurement or the contracting process with their government.
In terms of the procurement process, here at BeMoreNews.com, we've monitored Baltimore, we've monitored Prince George's County, we've monitored what comes out of Annapolis. On a state level, on a local level, we hear politicians say that they're going to support minority business, but then we have to, I realize that one of the first things we have to do in terms of definition is identify black businesses.
Right.
It kind of gets lost in the sauce. It could be a white woman fronting for her white husband, and which makes her a minority. But when we look around Baltimore, we look around Maryland, we're not seeing a lot of progress. As a matter of fact, we see, if anything, the same people getting access.
Well, what I'll say about that is twofold. One, on a federal level, I'll talk about the federal level first because that's really where I work. The good thing, if there's some good in the federal procurement process and in the small business preference process, is that small businesses, by definition, by law, are entitled to a certain percentage of the small business contracts the federal government puts out, and then certain types of small businesses are entitled. 8A is a program that you hear about, which again, socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, by and large, those are going to be people of color. You've got other programs, the Hub Zone program, where you either live in a certain historically underutilized business zone, or the majority of your employees come from that zone. Again, historically, that's going to be people who look like me and you. And so those are programs that in the federal law, we have those programs and we know what those programs mean. Now on a state level, that's a different issue, and I think that's what you're running into.
What could you recommend to minority business owners, black business owners, when, I mean, other than voting for someone else, but again, every politician coming in, they say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And at some point, I think it leaves the entrepreneur a little
hopeless, feeling hopeless and tired. Well, on a state level, and I speak from experience, I used to be a state legislator in Louisiana. I served in the state house and in the state senate. I felt that same despair, that same hopelessness. It's a little, you have to understand, we're dealing with constitutional issues in this day and age. Many of the laws that were written in the 60s to help African Americans, to prevent racism, were then turned around by the Supreme Court later on, and when we tried to pass laws to help African Americans, you should give a certain percentage of things to people of African descent. Those same people took our laws that said, wait a minute, before government does anything, they've got to have a compelling reason to do so. And so that has made it very difficult, particularly on a state level, to pass specific laws to any racial group. So we got to be a little bit more creative as to how we can help people of color. How can we help African Americans? So you asked me for my recommendation. I think what you have to,
in other words, what can we do for ourselves?
absolutely. I think you have to look at programs like the Hub Zone, the federal Hub Zone program, which doesn't look at race, it looks at geographics. It says that if your business is in an area that is historically underutilized, and again, by and large, I've been African American all my life. I know where the historically underutilized business zones are. They're typically in African American majority areas. If you used a race neutral program, I think you'd have probably a better chance at getting those type of competitive preference programs, even on a state, local level. So I think it's going to be very hard in this day and age to pass legislation that says we're only going to help people of a certain racial background. It's not going to happen in this day and age with this Supreme Court. But I think you can look at other ways to skin that cat, where unemployment is twice as high than the national average. Again, African Americans have a 16% unemployment compared to the 9% national average. Maybe you could tailor a program that dealt with unemployment numbers, and then that would be race neutral. And so I think you have to look at programs designed to be race neutral that can also help people.
So to say the least, in the community, people can be assured that President Barack Obama is aware of the plight of black business owners in America.
Well, I will tell you, working with his administration, the Small Business Administration, they are definitely aware of the plight of what's going on in African America. The challenge is trying to fix that. It's trying to handle that problem, and then trying to handle a problem that we have a high unemployment rate in America as a whole. And so we're trying to take steps on the Senate side to do what we can to help all small businesses. But I will tell you, my boss, Senator Mary Landrieu, also has a very, very keen insight on helping African American small business owners as well. Not just all minority small businesses, but also African American small business owners, and understands that African American small business owners have unique burdens and obstacles and issues unique to our race that other racial groups don't challenge. And that's been important, is to make people on the Hill understand that African American businesses have unique challenges, unique obstacles. I'm proud to say that there are at least two senators that I work with that understand that, Senator Mary Landrieu and Senator Ben Cardin. I have to give Senator Cardin his credit. On the federal level, he understands.
For real?
Absolutely. And I mean, he sits on the Small Business Committee.
Do tell.
Well, I mean, on legislation we worked on for the Small Business Jobs Act that became law last year, Senator Cardin is who put provisions in the bill to deal with bonding. Black contractors tell me the issues they've got, bonding. They can't get bonding. Yep. Senator Cardin put the bonding provisions not only in Small Business Jobs Act, he put them in the Stimulus Act, which we passed in 2009. The other thing that Senator Cardin was very instrumental in getting worked on in the Small Business Jobs Act is the anti-bundling statutes that are in there. Under the last administration, under the Bush administration, many agencies bundled contracts and made them so large that when small businesses tried to bid on those contracts, the agency could say, you can't handle this contract.
Beyond your capacity.
Absolutely. Senator Cardin placed in the Small Business Jobs Act a provision that says if any contract is over $2 million and the federal government wants to bundle it, they've got to explain why they're going to bundle it. They've got to provide some rationale for it. That was unheard of before the Small Business Jobs Act. So to the man's credit, anywhere he sits on the committee with us, when we have contracting issues, Senator Cardin is typically the guy who we can go to say, Senator, we need you to lead that. And that's who Senator Landrieu turns to. I turn to his staff on those issues. I got to give credit where credit is due.
Good deal.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and if we can ever be of assistance at the Small Business Committee.
Well, yeah, we want to come over and interview the senator.
We'd love to have you. Our website is sbc.senate.gov. SBC, that stands for Small Business Committee.senate.gov. I'm Don Cravins, and you can shoot me an email at Donald_Cravins, CRAVINS, at sbc.senate.gov, and we'll do whatever we can to help you.
Good deal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Good deal. Keep watching BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.